Hey, everybody, I'm David Bloom with Next TMT Talks. We are here with my co-founder, Daniel Frankel, talking about all things technology, media, and telecom. It's been a kind of a quiet week in some ways, but this stuff still keeps rocking on in TMT, even with the 4th of July weekend, holiday weekend that seemed to turn the week before and the week after into holiday weeks a little bit too. But there's stuff going on, and we found plenty to chat about and more than we have in our newsletter we have here in the podcast. So I guess to start, Dan, you waded into some data suggesting some disconnects between the allegedly doing pretty good economy and, the public are doing fine and consumers are great that we keep hearing from, CNBC people and other not so green shoots popping up here and there. And one that's particularly near and dear to the hearts of TMT operators, subscribers.
It's not a bombshell. But yeah, we've heard conflict between the numbers that we see from the federal government and analysts who say we're not in a recession, economy's growing. But you've seen consumer entertainment polls over the last couple of years. They all point to people buying less services, spending less on entertainment. One came out from Hub Entertainment Research Friday that looked kind of compelling. 10% reductions in consumer confidence in just like 6 months. I know there are tariffs and election, all sorts of things happen, but I thought that was kind of striking. And once again, consumers are talking about spending less on SVOD service and things like that, on subscriptions.
Not non-essentials, I think. And though we certainly love our streaming services and they're essential to what we write about, that doesn't mean they're essential to the spending as it goes ever upward, it feels like. So that has some interesting implications.
This isn't new, but it seems to have kind of an accelerated pace and a more serious pace. There's real world sort of chaos and economic implications driving it now. And you hear all the time about how the SVOD business is shifting to sort of an ad-supported model. And those numbers are coming up. You've tracked them. We'll track them again when Netflix gives earnings on Thursday. But are we going to end up in a situation where subscription revenue is declining too fast to keep up with the slow growth of ad support, or vice versa?
Yeah, really the issue is as we continue to see what's left of the battered and bedraggled cable universe continue to contract with cord cutting, though Charter's doing its best to kind of change that conversation, but that's where all the money is. Still, can we get more? You had a graphic from Al and Co, headed by the former Fox International TV executive and Wondery executive, whose name escapes me, but he does really interesting. Hernan Lopez, I think. And Hernan's point was, will this earnings quarter show that streaming revenues for the top 6, which includes Spotify,
not revenue, profit.
Yeah, profit. Well, it actually shows $6 billion in profit. Now, most of that is YouTube and Netflix, and everybody else is not really a rounding error, but it's a much smaller number. So,
right.
What do you think? What are we going to see here?
I think they were close in Q1, and I don't know what the cycle looks like. I didn't track it. Go back and sort of look at the up and down, but that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I don't think Netflix and YouTube are seeing their businesses back too much.
Right. Well, Netflix has got a churn rate of 2%. There is no churn rate really for YouTube. 2% best in the industry. We're not seeing that get whacked. I think the ones that get whacked are the ones that are the mid-tier guys. So we talked a little bit. Actually, we've talked a lot, but a little bit about Paramount Plus, which is going to it looks like it's all set to happen. The former head of Netflix's vice president of original programming, Cindy Holland, who spent more than a decade and a half helping that place become a home.
According to the New York Post and several other outlets, it's not a done deal yet. Skydance needs to keep on dancing. That was the pun that I came up with. That Brendan Carr said, "It's very nice you settled with the president for your election interference, but it's time to make it."
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you think it's faded completely.
I kind of think that there's enough smoke there that there's a pretty good wildfire burning, and we in Southern California can know a wildfire when we see one. So I kind of suspect that whatever stuff happens when Larry Ellison, David's daddy, calls up Super Don and says, "Dude, what up? Go kick Brendan Carr in the nuts."
My merger.
yes, let's get this thing done so we can get on with some business. And I think that's, I mean, look, they cleared the hurdle that mattered, which was her putting to bed this specious 60 Minutes lawsuit. And the shakedown happened, 16 million, blah, blah, blah. Whatever Ellison Jr. agreed to, we'll find out what that is. But that's going to happen. So then it becomes, okay, what does this company look like? Who's going to run the show? Where do they take things? That's, to me, much more interesting than the final stamp from Brendan Carr, who is ultimately no longer an independent commission chairman. That has been demonstrated by Trump
Right.
in his handling of all the formerly independent
Trump saying, I'm not
commissions.
done with you yet. And it might be better if timing. He wants to put more space in between what just happened and the final green light. There are individuals I've met in my life that I just can't predict what they'll do. And he's one of them. I think you can to some extent. The taco thing is sort of an attempt to do that, but it's kind of a wild card. He might drag this out. I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, that's just him being contrary. I don't think that's meaningful.
You're probably right, but who knows?
But, you know, we can kvetch about that for days if you'd like. I mean, because kvetch is one of our many, many middle names. So we could do that.
So Cindy Holland, she's going to come in and make sweeping changes to Paramount Plus and really turn it around. Like it needs to turn around.
It's, look, what is she going to do? Let's just envision. Yeah, Paramount Plus is doing okay for all the chaos it's been in the middle of. It's doing okay, I think, for the amount of funding available to it and all the complications about where it's going. I think it's doing all right. And the consumer rankings that we have in the newsletter this month or this week, it looks okay. I mean, it's definitely second tier, but it's hanging in, right? So what are you reinventing?
I'm just quoting the Frankel report, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Wow. Well, okay. So if you're going to quote them, at least tell me what it's going to be. Like, what is the thing that needs to be different? I mean, they can always do a better interface because, like, everybody but Netflix hasn't figured out how to do a decent interface that makes you really want to watch that show and then that show and then that show. Nobody else is really doing a great job on that. Not even Amazon, to my mind. And they've got access to some pretty good AI tools and a cloud system that's pretty good, the biggest in the world. I mean, Apple's okay. You know, Apple's got its challenges, but it's got a pretty good interface. But I mean, fix your interface, fine, make it better. Great. What else? What are they going to do with programming differently?
More, as you said, more Taylor Sheridan. I have no idea. They used the word, the report, the Frankel report used the words reinvent Paramount Plus. I think that was the word.
That feels to me not as like I'm a man obviously of very little imagination, and that is one of my many limitations. But I sit there and I look at, okay, you've got the NFL, that's a good start, most popular show on television. You got a bunch of very durable procedurals and all that stuff, and shows that
the number one show in broadcasting.
Well, you got Tracker, you got Elsbeth, you got a bunch of shows like that are big crowd-pleasing things on CBS that run on P Plus within like 12 hours or 24 hours. I mean, they're up very quickly thereafter. So you've got that. You've got the Taylor Sheridan universe, which seems to be multiplying every time he takes a week off and hangs out at his ranch. I've got 17 more shows to do.
Prolific.
He's amazing. I don't necessarily agree with some of his spouting off, but so what? You know, he's got a huge audience. He knows how to take care of it. He delivers crowd-pleasing stuff to very large numbers of viewers. So more of that. Boy, that's a real reinvention there. And then what else? What else are you going to throw in there to transform stuff?
Listen, if I could tell you that, I'd get a job at Netflix. It's a hard job. You're trying to put a lot of content for a lot of different audience segments and cram it all merchandise-wise into the depth of a phone screen or a computer screen. It's not easy to do.
It's not easy to do. And that is a good point. It's not easy to do. The question that gets interesting to me is, do these middle tier services who don't have access to $17 billion in annual programming spend, do they start to focus on certain kinds of shows? Like Apple TV Plus, intentionally or no, has become a real place for excellent science fiction, right? That's a thing they do really well. And the new Foundation series
I've
or season came out. Murderbot is wrapping up and it's fantastic. You've got Severance just rolling along, scooping up Emmys. They do that really well. They may not do other things that are really compelling, but that, if you're a sci-fi geek, that's a place to go. And maybe you would drop $5 a month on that. So does P Plus get a little more focused when it's got this big, broad stuff?
I think we need a hard salary cap. Nobody can spend more than, I don't know, $10 million on content. You can be the commissioner of the SFOD league.
Yeah, I am not taking that job on. It's like, what a hard salary cap of $10 million. That ain't working with anybody. The state finally approved more changes to California's tax incentive programs to make it much better. Thank God for that. But I don't think that's going to, applying a salary cap in this era, it doesn't feel like a real winner. And I got to tell you, I don't think there's going to be a winner with Major League Baseball, no matter what Rob Manfred and some of the smaller markets in Major League Baseball want. That one's going to be tough to pull off, too, because the Dodgers, let's just be frank, sitting here fat and happy, spending $500 million a year on a light year on their team. And the Milwaukee Brewers, I think, are spending $67 million. Not the Brewers. I mean, it was the Marlins, probably the Marlins. Spend like $67 million a year on their payroll for everybody. And I think that includes the peanut guys. So.
It's hard to make a competitive league that way. But you live in one of the towns, New York or Los Angeles, that has the largesse. It's kind of fun. We're in the bubble of that, so it's hard to comment on. Separately.
Well, it's hard to be objective about it because we get to watch. And like even down in Anaheim, it doesn't matter for them. So, right.
Superman this week, I'm sure you saw that. I was one that Zaslav sort of plaintively, when taking the reins of Warner Brothers Discovery a few years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, said, lamented, there hasn't been a Superman in 17 years, like we were doing the intellectual property, which had mined to death, some kind of disservice. And I always kind of think that when you take worn out or overused IP and go out searching for a narrative, it's not going to end well. But apparently it did. The Rotten Tomatoes audience scores, the Cinema Score audience score, they're very high. It's going to make over 200 million at the global box office. It's global, right?
Yeah.
That's a good start. For a superhero,
that's a good start. But the first weekend kind of sets the bar for what it's probably going to be in traditional releasings, like Formula One, F1, the movie from Apple and Warner Brothers was released a couple weeks ago. It hit 311 million this week. Great. Okay. So is that a hit? Does it matter when it's Apple, a $3 trillion company, when it's 311 million and they did a nice little blowout thing, and they'll probably stick with it for the next film with Joe Kosinski and Jerry Bruckheimer. They'll still do some theatrical releases. Great, whatever. But it's going to go over to TV Plus pretty soon, and maybe they'll start playing with it and making it really interesting. They're busy looking at F1 the movie, and now probably going to scoop up for 150 million a year the F1 real racing rights that ESPN has had and will have through the end of this year. So, but they see that as an opportunity to do a lot of cool technology stuff that makes for more immersive experiences that really don't require theaters. So that's what that is. 311 million is pretty good. 200 million for Superman, for Warner Brothers, which needs to have a home run from its most iconic IP. I don't know what else would be close. I mean, Tony Soprano, maybe, because he did stuff, but this dates back to Action Comics #1 and all the rest. I mean, it's the most iconic IP they probably own. And what's it got to do over the next month to really be worth everything that rides on his flowing cape?
Maybe they rebooted into a HBO Max series. I don't know. It seems like from observing just the news cycle in the last 8 days that the savvy distributors understand that you have to make stuff that sort of transitions across the windows and lives in theaters and in streaming. Amazon is a case in point. Ben Affleck's second autistic super killer drama, The Accountant 2, with Jay Bernenthal. It did a decent box office clip. It was released a few months ago, and then it was their second biggest title on the platform. I think it delivered 80 million viewing hours in some frame, which was, I don't know what is the all-time best, but I think it That's a good number for them. So it's, it can't be a cheap movie. The prints and advertising cost to release it theatrical isn't cheap. You get the awareness out of it. It does well on the platform.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is we look at these numbers like, oh my God, it's a great number. How many tickets did you sell? Question we should always be asking, but don't among the journalistic brotherhood. How many tickets is that? And what does that compare to the last Superman or 10 years ago? 2, what did it really cost? We never quite know, but it's probably a couple $100 million, maybe a little bit more. P&A, as you put it, prints and advertising, is basically marketing costs. So that's almost certainly another 125 million. So, and believe me, though 300 million or 200 million in an opening weekend sounds great, they only get half of that. And the splits get worse with the theaters as it stays in theaters longer. So I was really interested. I have to say, I was really fascinated because I, as a guy who's reviewed movies and whose spouse was a professional movie critic for a long time, I look at it a little bit like the baseball writer who goes to hang out at Dodger Stadium on a Sunday when he's off. It's like he can't help himself. He's still sitting there watching that slider away is going to be followed by a fastball high and inside or whatever, that kind of stuff. And you know that particular metaphor as a former youth baseball coach. But the point being that I sit there and I watch the reviews, and like Rotten Tomatoes pulls them all together, but they can be gamed a little bit. Second of all, I was really fascinated that there are some critics who just like, I don't get what James Gunn is doing. Doesn't work for me. This is childish, dumbass stuff. And others like, oh, that's pretty funny stuff. This is great. You know how he's kind of playing with the whole superhero thing, it's like Superman's like the guy and he's kind of playing with it. It's really cool. And it's like, okay. I was fascinated by that range of responses to the film, which suggests to me that it will do great with the Superman superfan. I kind of like that. The Superman superfan will be all over this thing and we'll watch it some. How long does the joke work for anybody not in that particular quadrant of the viewership?
It doesn't, like I said, I think it exists now it's a launch mechanism. You kick off a big cinematic event there, the window's shorter, and you build it up for the secondary platforms, which is home video. Yeah. You see it on TV too. I ran the Penske Trades put up the final numbers for the 2024-25 TV season and ranked the shows. The tracker was on top. The aggregate numbers, if you look at them, the biggest broadcast shows still get most of their viewership from broadcasts, but it's a bigger chunk on the secondary streaming, like Paramount Plus, Peacock, Hulu.
Actually, ABC. Tracker wasn't number one. It wasn't even number one on CBS. Ghosts was bigger, according to the graphic I'm looking at. And then ABC had like the top 5.
Oh, that's the demo rating. Well, that was I'm talking about the
demo. Let's just be blunt here. The demo rating is the people that matter to advertisers.
Right. I was going to get to that. What was interesting to me is that streaming carries the bulk of the water for the demo. You introduce it on the broadcast, but it's the people who tune in the next day on Hulu, Peacock, Paramount Plus that deliver most of that weight.
It's all those young kids who know how this fancy streaming thing works. It's like, honey, where's the on button on my Roku device? I don't know. I don't understand. So, yeah, right. So it's the kids these days. Yeah, but that 18 to 49 demo is absolutely the most important part. And ABC's doing pretty well, which I was surprised. Tracker, it did do well. It was top 10. It was 8 according to this list, and some pretty nice numbers. But none of these are big numbers anymore. I mean, you see these numbers, you think back 10 years ago, and you go, "Whoa, this is like 1/10 of that." So
it's like getting into a weird mode watching broadcast television. The kind of it's not as serialized, and it's a little bit. They ask you to take greater leaps of the imagination. It feels a little sillier. I mean, the sophistication of the viewer has evolved to some extent, particularly those that have migrated to streaming services and played. Watch a lot of HBO and Netflix, and it's just a different experience.
Yeah, they're clicking over to this thing, and they're building their own playlist and all that stuff, or going off to do whatever's on YouTube this minute that they can
But it's not dead because it has this extraordinary sort of theatrical debut. It's like on broadcast. It shows up during NFL games in the fall.
Yeah. We no longer, the real problem is we still have numbers that were useful for decades in theatrical releases, in broadcast debuts, et cetera, et cetera. And they don't mean the same thing anymore. It's a little bit like, again, to use a baseball metaphor, because I know who I'm talking to. There's all these weird statistics that have come up, like WAR and wins, that's wins above replacement, but a bunch of other like really crazy detailed little acronyms that mean nothing to my little tiny brain. These are numbers, so it hurts me just to look at them, but they've developed all these supposedly more precise numbers. But what I don't know that one number means in comparison to everybody else, because it's like I know what a good ERA used to be, right? Or a good batting average used to be. And then Bill James came along and screwed everything up. And it's like, oh, batting average doesn't matter so much. How many walks and hit by pitches do you have? Well, it's like that with ratings. It's like, or a movie's debut. It's like, okay, you had this much on this weekend, but there's all this other stuff downstream that you got to do. That's different than it used to be. You have 200 million in your opening weekend. Well, that kind of sets, it's going to be this kind of impact and it's going to be a win for you. Well, maybe that's not as true as it used to be, right? Because you got to spend so much to make it in marketing.
And I'll use that word era in terms of media research. I think you're right. I mean, we all gather around Nielsen's gauge like it's the 2001 monolith.
I have seen you genuflect toward the gauge. I'm just going to say right now, you have genuflected. You have fully genuflected, and you've actually, I think, invoked a couple of prayers of thanks a couple of times. I'm not going to judge, but I will just throw that out there.
I occasionally make ape-like guttural.
Oh, you've been doing that for years. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why your spouse, our beloved producer, married you, but who am I to judge?
The quality of mercy is not strained. Was that Kipling? I don't remember who said that. So moving on, I did catch up a little bit on The Bear, season 4 on Hulu.
We got right through it. We got right through it, man.
Oh, The Bear. What's the name of the star? The Calvin Klein model.
Carmi Barzado.
Listen, he's got like he's such a rangy actor. He's got pensive and kind of
big blue eyes, little tiny rodent chin. Yeah.
I just want to be better. Oh, I don't mind that it treads when a highly acclaimed series regurgitates the same kind of plot over and over again. I'll keep watching. But I love their music. They played Led Zeppelin 3 and The Pretenders in the last episode, which was episode 2 of season 4. I watched on Friday night. But after a while, it's like, hey, you're trying to make me feel emotions, aren't you? You're trying to tell me how to feel. It's amazing how you can just take kind of mediocre television and make it, oh, it's so good. It's not. I'm sorry to say I enjoy it. I'll watch it.
The key here becomes A, you enjoyed it, but B, as a music geek, I certainly enjoy picking up the needle drops and going, those first opening notes are, oh, that's such and such, and da-da-da. And I continue to just adore Eddie Vedder's take on one of my favorite 1980s songs, Save It for Later.
I mean, she was the landmark performance. I mean, it's not, they get great actors. It's interesting to listen to. It's interesting to watch. But at the end of the day, you feel like you just had a Twix bar. It's sort of like, I still need dinner. I still need something to watch.
Well, I'm not much for medicine movies and medicine things that are good for you. So I kind of like the attempt to entertain, but I have to say, as somebody who spent almost all of his formative years in Missouri and Illinois around a lot of Midwestern people, I have never heard combined over the, 18 years of my time in Missouri and Illinois, including my college years, I never heard combined as much yelling as I've heard in 38 episodes of The Bear. The just random, crazy, insane. It's like, these are Midwesterners. Grant Wood painted American Gothic because he knew my people. They don't talk much, and they sure as hell don't yell much. I think it's a legitimate question to say, what the hell's in the juice of the Chicago beef that these people are taking in?
It's a stressful job. It's the most rewarding, most stressful thing you can do.
No, that's called journalism, buddy.
So anyway, on to Netflix. Big earnings report this week. Q2.
Yeah.
They had some intrigue. The Colorado Court of Appeals said they can't call what they deliver to customers non-tangible assets. It's just because you can't touch it. You can't see it.
Doesn't exist in the real world. There's no physical product that people are acquiring. Other than that, it's completely corporeal and in the real world.
Corporeal goodwill. That corporeal. That was it. That's a great word.
Corporeal. Where I came from, the word corporeal's roots are body, the body. The corpus, that's the Latin root of corporeal. So there is no body. So I kind of feel like this is Colorado's Supreme Court sticking up for the home folks so they can extract 2.9% tax on those dudes from L.A. To help pay for the Colorado Supreme Court's overhead. Right? Because with this saying that some TV show, Too Much, the new show from the creator of Girls, that show is a corporeal thing. It stars it's like, okay, well, that means that what accountants do is a corporeal thing. And what lawyers do at the Supreme Court is a corporeal thing that you can put a 2.9% tax on. I mean,
Lawyer goodwill.
Yeah,
that's right.
If you're going to set that precedent for Netflix shows, boy, you've opened the door for a whole bunch of stuff, and then maybe they should in a services-driven economy. We can certainly argue that, even though Mr. Trump is trying to make us all a manufacturing heaven again. I think that'll be unlikely to happen, but we'll see where that goes. But, it's a services-driven economy in many, many respects. So all of a sudden you're saying we're going to tax all that stuff too. Okay, then admit it. But you can't just single out Netflix.
Netflix did win-win. Well, the whole streaming industry win-win when the U.S. District Court of Appeals struck down an FTC. This is under Lena Khan, the Biden-appointed chair of the FTC, who's no longer there. Big surprise. They said they were going to crack down on subscription companies online, not just video streamers, but other types of subscription companies like food delivery, which I've experienced. Impossible to cancel. So easy to sign up for, but impossible to quit.
Yeah, it's the Hotel California syndrome, basically.
Yeah.
You can check in, but you can never check out. You can never sign out.
So what else we got? What else was on our docket this week? What did we blow the lid off?
Well, I think we should welcome back HBO Max. Welcome back. As of this week, Max is no longer maxed out. It's HBO Max. And some minor amount of sanity returned to the overweening bosses at Warner Brothers, soon to be not Discovery. I'm glad they put the name back on there at least, and that's good. So, well, one of the things I think is interesting, though I try very hard not to fall into this bottomless pit, but you do all the time, is what's going on with Charlie Ergen and EchoStar and Spectrum. They haven't been using very much. That was going to get taken away. And then Charlie called up his buddy Don and said, hey, let's have lunch. And Don said, okay, maybe we don't just take this away and give it to Elon because Elon's is being mean. And now Elon's into full mean again with his own party and stuff like that. So I guess the question is, does EchoStar get to keep the underutilized bandwidth that it needs, or do the other three incumbent wireless companies find a way to extract it from Charlie's grasp? Because he's not doing enough with it. He hasn't really gotten it up and going. It was supposed to be the fourth wireless provider.
The T-Mobile's.
It was supposed to make up for Sprint
government by
yeah.
Sprint. And the FTC said, listen, if you do that, you're going to reduce the competitive wireless business from 4 to 3. Doesn't look like it's good for consumers. It's bad. And then they got Dish along and said, wait, we'll build a fourth one. Don't worry. And it turned out to be kind of debt intensive and hard to do. And they don't.
Yeah, debt intensive for a company that was struggling to not lose subscribers in its existing businesses. So not great. But
they acquired a lot of what's called AWS-4 premium grade wireless spectrum and haven't used it. Meantime, the rest of the wireless business is rationing what is a finite resource and will run out and will not have enough spectrum to launch. They're going to go for 5G to 6th generation wireless network. That's the goal. And if they don't get more spectrum, they're not going to be able to do that.
And then what does that mean for our competitiveness against the Chinese threat, right? If we can't make 6G calls, we can only do 5G calls. But it is worth.
They're very close still, even with Elon Musk on the outs with Trump, there are other satellite ISPs out there. There are FCC, whether you agree with them or not, whether you just can't wait to get them out of power and get somebody else in there, guilty as charged. They're about to hitch our wagons to satellite broadband.
Right. So we'll see if that actually makes sense. Satellite broadband, which is still too slow for like downloading stuff and things like that, and kind of in the hands of a ketamine-addled child, brilliant child, but otherwise focused on fixing his electric car company whose brand he just trashed like a car in a demolition derby. So maybe you don't go there if sometimes if something gets done for the wrong reasons, but with the right outcome, like Trump's mad at Elon, so therefore Starlink doesn't get the extra spectrum. That might be good. Might be good. I mean, the reality is the 4G era stuff set loose a bunch of amazing technologies like Uber and DoorDash, those kinds of things, because you could be on your phone and order up a car wherever you are, and they would be able to track and figure out where things. That was enabled by 4G. And 5G came along, it's enabling more stuff. So we don't even know what 6G could do, but we know that we have a track record as each of these generations has come along in opening up lots of new technologies and opportunities. Will satellite TV or satellite broadband provision through Starlink, other than allowing the Ukrainians to help survive, which good on that. But other than that, basically, it's going to serve areas like very remote rural areas that can't get a wireless tower. And then what's the use case for putting a bunch of bandwidth over there other than possibly enriching Elon?
A lot it needs to be determined, this outcome of these very petulant men with billions of dollars, first and foremost. So we'll see. Yeah. You had an interesting conversation with our sponsor, Lucas Burkett, this week of Looper Insights.
I did. Lucas is cool. I like Lucas. It was cool.
Yeah, you guys talked about.
I strongly recommend it. It's a video conversation.
Yeah, it's also in this issue. So I'm just giving that a plug.
It's in this issue. Look it up. It's a thing of beauty. Now they're interesting because he uses this metaphor of we're like the shoppers, the secret shoppers that would go into a place like Blockbuster back in the day and make sure that Viacom was getting its movies on the end cap that it was paying Blockbuster for to be in the right end caps that they're paying for in all the different Blockbusters around America. Well, it's like that only now for hundreds of platforms in 25 countries digitally. So you're virtually making sure that your stuff's doing, and you get to see what all your competitors are doing, which is really useful in terms of making sure you're spending your money right and you're doing it in a competitive way. So it's an interesting, it's like the universe of these platforms has exploded so broadly that you need something like this just to survive. And I find that fascinating, actually. So, but he's good. Lucas is cool. Liked him. I was fascinated that the guys over at Lightshed who just like tossing a bomb here and there. I love them, but man, they like tossing bombs. They said, fire Tim Cook at Apple. Yes, he's taken Apple from about $300 billion in revenues to $3.3 trillion, an 11x run in 14 years. Pretty good. Not so bad. I mean, he did stuff that literally, as genius as Steve Jobs was, Steve Jobs couldn't do, and took that company and operated the hell out of it for the last 14 years. But fire him. We need a wartime CEO, quote unquote, to deal with the fact that Apple's trailing in AI. And also not spending tens of billions of dollars doing it, but they're trailing in AI. And they just had one of their top AI guys get lured away by Meta for $200 million over a few years, but still $200 million. We're talking about an F1 movie's worth of one guy. Probably pretty bright, but still one guy. So that makes baseball look like pikers, just saying.
Yeah, it seems to me, the first time that a high-profile analyst, I forget who it was on CNBC last month.
Probably said, Laura Martin.
It wasn't, I have to go back, that he's not a wartime CEO. It's not the first time you heard that. The call for him to step down, it still seems like early innings in terms of AI. Apple's always been wait and see and behind the curve and observing before stepping in. That's the reputation. Right. It seems early for that, but the Lightshed guys know their stuff. So
well, it's an interesting time, I think, because no doubt things are improving dramatically quickly. Some of my recent interviews with AI related companies, it's really interesting. It's like, yeah, this thing we do now, we couldn't do 3 months ago. This thing we do now that's incredible, we couldn't do at all. We couldn't even dream about a year ago. The things are advancing from many companies, including small ones that are leveraging some of the things that are happening with the big ones, or working around figuring out how to leverage them in interesting ways. Those are really interesting. And Apple was trying to deliver basically AI for the rest of us, right? Siri would be friendly and actually useful and not just a nice voice, but actually some substance behind it. And they keep doing things like their writing tools for summaries and stuff like that, advertising those things. But no one really thinks it's a hit. But then the question is, who else has a hit? The only one that's really doing anything that's financially working with AI in a big way, not just selling picks and shovels to these mega companies, but the only one that's actually doing something that's making money is Meta, using AI to optimize all the ads it shoves at its, I can't believe, billions of users. I can't believe there's still billions of people using Facebook, but weirdly there are, including every relative I have over the age of 30 and a couple under. Actually, that now includes my children. So yes, any relative over the age of 30 is still using Facebook in some fashion.
Well, I think you just said it. It's moving so fast that high-profile analysts look at the playing field and say, these guys are just not going to be able to catch up. That's interesting. You don't see that every day. You don't see a guy who's created as much wealth as Tim Cook gets said it's time to step down.
He's made a lot. And the other thing that comes out of this that doesn't get talked about quite as much then is, okay, Tim Cook leaves. Who takes over? Same week that Lightshed's calling for Tim Cook to leave, his number 2 says he's going to retire by the end of the year, Jeff Williams. And Williams has been around as COO for 10 years. He's been in the company for 27. He knows more about that company than anybody but probably Tim Cook, and very respected, and was always the guy people say, well, Tim leaves, we got Jeff. Now they're going to have a guy who's a little bit younger, Sabi Khan, who's been running SVP of operations. So he's right in the whole meat grinder of how you make this gigantic beast move forward. Also a logistics whiz like Tim Cook was when he was tapped to take over for Jobs. And he's slightly younger. He's like 59. But you kind of want somebody who's going to be around for a decade. If you tap him now, you need somebody who's going to be around for a while. And most of the guys that have been right there at Tim Cook's right hand are 61, 62, Cook 64. Like if you take a successor who's 61, he's going to be pretty old to run a company in a decade. And you really want some stability on a company. On a ship that big, you need a captain who knows what he's doing. This is, I think, a much bigger succession question than Iger's successor. Even though Disney's a big company, the value of Disney's it's like I think its market cap something like $500 million. Something like that. Maybe no, it's more like 250 billion. I think about 250 billion. So it's less than 10%. As big as the conversations are about Bob Iger, will he ever leave? Will he ever let go of the tiller? This is a much bigger question with much more consequence, I think, to the U.S. economy and so much else.
3% of the S&P. It's a massive decision.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, exactly. It's a gigantic part of the S&P. It's in all these ETFs. Basically, it's one of those go-to, widows and orphans fund kinds of investments. So who runs that company is a big deal. So Warren Buffett's stepping down, another $1 trillion company, by the way, at Berkshire Hathaway. And does Cook say, and the other thing that we shouldn't diminish about Cook, he uses that Auburn University Southern charm to get Yankee Donald Trump to be nice to Apple on a regular basis. And
it worked before. It doesn't seem to be working as well.
Well, who's it working with now? Tell me who it's working with now. I mean, tell me who else is having great success. I mean, Charlie Ergen didn't get his bandwidth taken away, but that was as much about not Elon as it was pro Charlie, I think.
I wasn't there. Charlie can be pretty folksy and,
and notoriously cheap and difficult. But other than that, sure, great. I mean, Charlie's been a great operator for a long time, and he's managed to keep that thing going for a long time. But not a lot of folks can really claim to have the president's ear consistently these days, I think.
Listen, gravitas or age is a number. I saw Pete Carroll, who's now coaching the Raiders, interviewed on ESPN.
Carroll.
Looks
Pete
great.
Carroll.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know. That's Pete, the eternal teenager. I mean, he's fantastic. God knows I love Pete. Love me some Pete. But yes, it's annoying how good he looks, and he's 73, I think. So
I think I might have to get on that Raiders bandwagon this year. My son will kill me for
okay,
leaving.
you go bandwagon, brother. It's not a long ride, and it's a 45-minute plane flight, so you could be right there for every game.
Oh, I'm way too cheap to go to an NFL game. I'll watch them on television.
There you go.
Yeah, there you
That's the way to go, and you can watch it on Paramount Plus. If Cindy Holland doesn't end their NFL rights, or the NFL rejiggers those contracts in about 3 years, which is apparently what is
go. Yeah, I mean,
now
I think that's the kind of nexus of power who decides ultimately to make the decision for massive ticket sports rights when they come up for renewal. That's going to be interesting to see under the new Paramount regime.
Yeah, it will. Because that's a lot of money. And are they going to try to play with the tech giants? I mean, if Daddy Ellison has got $250 billion in his back pocket, great. He's maybe going to want to get that GP, the sailing Grand Prix rights, because he's a serious sailor. He did America's Cup, things like that. So the sailing Grand Prix, I could imagine them scooping up rights for that. But I don't know that he cares about football that much, Well,
it's live sports. And on that note, I guess we'll send people out to their lives here.
This is a new week. There won't be much sports this week, but the ESPYs will be on the deadest sports day of the calendar, which is the day after the All-Star game. So somebody can decide to watch the ESPYs, I guess. And otherwise, we'll see if Charlie Ergen keeps his bandwidth, if Tim Cook keeps his job, and if Cindy Holland gets her job. With that, wrap this thing up. All right?
We're wrapped. So, good. Thanks,
Dan. This is David Bloom with Next TMT and Next TMT Talks, which is what you're listening to, watching, enjoying, consuming. And thank you for that. With my colleague and co-founder, Daniel Frankel. Thanks very much, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.